are here with Rob at Etch. He is a sommelier. Cheers, guys.
Cheers.
Yes.
Wonderful having you.
Thanks for having us.
Well, thanks for having me.
Yes. And so, to be a sommelier, and how did you come to Etch? And
I've been in hospitality for the entirety of my life. It started as a summer job at a casual dining restaurant, like in the late 90s. And maybe I benefited, or retroactively, I guess, benefited from being a bit of a procrastinator in terms of trying to figure out a career. I just stayed in serving and bartending for so long. It was convenient. I moved around a decent bit, so with the larger chain companies that I moved with, or that I worked with, it was convenient because I could move somewhere else, and there was likely going to be one there for me to be able to transition to. And it wasn't until I moved to Nashville in 2010 that I tried my thought at setting some roots in a certain.
the name is so interesting. I can't even know if I can even pronounce it.
Yeah, well, I kind of put the little accent on there, but Verdicchio.
Verdicchio.
See?
Okay.
Kind of easy.
Yeah, it is easy to
in that
say.
area.
Awesome.
But yeah, just one of my favorite Italian whites to kind of sip on. It's incredibly versatile with a ton of food. It has just great acidity, great texture, and then that little almondy, nutty kind of note at the end.
Well, I'm excited.
It's just a
Let's
fun
give it a
little
try.
sipper.
I totally get the almond you were talking about.
Very nice.
I really love this. This is great.
And it just lingers a little bit longer. Pinot Grigio is much, I think, cleaner, leaner, easier to kind of move through, which is great with maybe different types of food, but this can, I think, rock with even heavier style dishes. But
Yeah, it really
just a fun little quirk.
lingers in your mouth. Like you're saying, I don't know, it's very complex for a white. I really enjoy this, and I can see what you're saying about it going well with like any kind of food.
It's very smooth up front. And then,
punches you a little
yeah,
bit.
and it really kicks in.
Yeah.
Because the texture kind of leaves up front and then it feels voluptuous. But as it finishes, it kind of still tingles on its way over, which kind of helps lengthen the flavor.
Yeah.
That's why sort of acidity is, not just in wine, but in food, is so important because it just helps sort of everything intermingle.
Yeah. And you serve this by the glass and by the bottle?
Indeed.
Okay.
As well. So it is really excite someone, especially at a place like here, I think, to kind of mimic the style of food that we do, and certainly the pedigree and reputation that Etch has built, thanks to our executive chef, Deb Paquette. If there isn't a bit of adventure in the beverages as well as the food, I feel that it's kind of lost a little bit of the point.
Yeah. So how did you come across this wine?
This particular bottling is brought in by an import company, Vineyard Brands, that a good friend of mine works for. So I was already fond of this particular grape after going down the rabbit hole of Italy specifically, which is you can potentially never get out of if you go down that far down. But it was just stylistically a wine that I kind of really enjoyed for all the reasons that we've talked about. And then she tasted me on this particular one, and not only was it delicious, but it was a nice little way to kind of give a little bit of love to a friend of mine that's been in Nashville for a while. So it's a little win-win.
100%. Man, this is so good. Funny side note too, we took our mask down, obviously we were going to start drinking, and I saw he had a mustache, and I was like, I love his mustache. You don't know what people look like anymore. So you're kind of telling us a little bit about this wine before we got into it. It's a Portuguese wine.
Yes.
And you said that you are Portuguese.
Yeah, my last name's Portuguese. I guess more Peruvian than Portuguese.
Okay.
French and German as well, but my last name is Portuguese. Guimarães is a little town northeast of Porto in the Douro region, actually, which is where we are here with the wine. Full-on medieval castle there, like I was telling you before.
Yeah.
I had original plans of going there and claiming my heirdom, but it's a much more common name there than it is in the United States. So
it still sounds
it sounds Guimarães was the number 3 wine spectator wine of the year in 2014.
Oh, wow.
For the 2011 vintage. And certainly, I think the quality of the grapes is now, I think, supported by the Bordelais as well, because actually Touriga Nacional has just been approved as a new permissible Bordeaux grape in the last couple of years. Well, global warming kind of changing how grapes are going to grow.
Yeah, we've heard
but
that.
It's a wine that has naturally high tannin. As you were talking about the color when we were pouring it, when we were off camera, some good concentration as well, and a beautiful perfume, a natural sort of violet-y aromatic that is really distinctive. Well, I love the fact that it can play in the realm of somebody who likes Cabernet drinkers, Cabernet.
I love how like wine is like everywhere. It's all over the world, and like there's so many like avenues to it, and like it's never ending of like what you can know about it. And that's I was gonna ask you though, like so if the average person that like would look at this bottle, so like, you know, what would you describe it like to a person that doesn't know anything about wine? Like what would be like a very simple way to be like, this is what this is?
Think of maybe the umph of Cabernet,
Okay.
the floral notes of Merlot, and maybe a bit of the texture and fruit profile also of Malbec, I think. So again, these are all Bordeaux grapes, but that floral note is pretty distinctive there. And in certain styles, Merlot can have a really pretty perfume as well. I find it a lot in Washington wines as well. So I think that is something that people can familiarize or have awareness of or experience with, that they can kind of see what this jigsaw puzzle of flavor might end up.
Not like a good Malbec.
Yeah.
It's kind
And
of
this-
what you were
yeah.
saying. It's kind of like this trio of just like
Yeah, you get the vibes from all three of
you
those.
really
For
do.
sure. Cab, Merlot, and
The
Malbec.
smell,
Malbec usually a little bit more textured, and the fruit can sometimes be a little bit more blue, blackberry, black raspberry-ish kind of thing, which the flavor profile here stays generally in. But then that floral thing is pretty distinctive with the grape. And then the tannins, and I think the umph of Cabernet as well.
I love the tannins in this too.
Yeah, instead of GSM, you can make the GMN. It's good wine. I really enjoy this.
And I love that you guys serve it by the glass and the bottle, like you were saying, because it could really get someone to try it, number one, and then, you know, if they're really enjoying it, get a bottle.
It's got some nice acidity at the end too.
Yeah.
So there's not a lot of like tannin going on, which it's more just very smooth to me, and then with the acidity at the end, right? Yeah.
I think so. Yeah, it is naturally a tannic grape, but
it doesn't like punch you in the face.
Exactly. Like on top of your bottle, that something that they intend to certainly age for much longer is going to probably be built in a way where they're definitely kind of more tannic. But this is sort of kind of out of the gate ready.
Yeah. Awesome.
I think it's so cool that you get to introduce people to wine.
Yeah.
You know, by just sitting there and talking to them and getting to hear kind of what they're into, you can kind of steer them, like you were saying earlier, like, hey, I've got something for you to try.
Well, I mean, it's kind of fun. Usually I kind of tease them after the fact that if they do discover something that they wouldn't normally think, whether or not it's a particular grape or an area of the world that they hadn't been in before, and they end up enjoying it, and they'll take a picture of the label, and they get to go home, and when they get together with their group of friends, they're swanky, oh, have you even heard of this this other part of the world? Well, let me show you what it's all about. So then they tend to be the cool person.
Well, I might feel cool after this. I might be like, I went to Etch, not talking to sommelier.
Right perspective as well, because sometimes a whole mountain of information and notes on soil composition and vintage variation is going to be less important than, because the guests that are coming in are going to be in a different bracket of education themselves as well.
Very true.
Sometimes the best thing that a staff member could say, especially if they've tasted some of the wines we have, or they won one because we sent them home with it for having won the best score over the course of the year, and they end up loving it at home. They don't have to know a single thing about the wine, but if a guest comes in and they ask about that wine, and they can just say, you know what, I may not be able to tell you much about the technical details over there, but me and a couple of friends had that bottle last night, and man, it just went down like water. We kind of maybe had a few too many of it. We're still recovering, but it was freaking delicious, and that's
all that matters. I mean, a lot of people that we talk to about wine, and through this whole last year, this whole journey of wine, we've met people from all walks of life, and that's why we say anybody can be a part of the conversation. Like people that like are at a high caliber sommelier, know everything, or people that know nothing, and if they just want to know if it's good and they love it, people can come in here from all walks of life. People that know a lot about wine, or people that don't know anything, and they're going to get a great experience, and they're going to get some really good wine.
Yeah, we're all about showing and showcasing good wine.
Yes.
And the places in Nashville that you can find good wine.
Drink what you like and like what you drink, and
what
don't let anybody judge you.
Yeah.
Was lucky that I was in Nashville at the right place at the right time when the city itself was growing up in a culinary and beverage aspect, and an entire sort of community of sommeliers and beverage professionals in the area were all getting together and getting excited as the town was growing up. And I've had a chance to sort of even see generations, not really generations, but the next wave of those people in Nashville that I've had the chance to speak with and mentor and become good friends with. And now there's a lot of I mean, back when I started in Nashville, there was maybe a single-digit amount of sommeliers in dining restaurants.
Yeah.
And now you can find a good chunk of them that are pretty darn fantastic at most of the good restaurants and places. So it's just a testament to, I think, a town that has grown up in a really, in a short period of time.
Very short period of time,
Yeah.
I know. That's amazing that you've like been able to see all that. That's so cool.
And then I came to Etch after moving around. I was in the process of taking some different examinations and was at a couple of locations around town that I loved at, but that thematically maybe didn't fit me as well, or that maybe had sort of tighter wine programs, or where the wine programs weren't the main focus, even though I was trying to add something to it and what have you. Got to know one of the previous sommeliers here who works with a distributor in the area. We became good friends, and then at some point he had mentioned that they were looking for a role, and I mean, I'm not a young lad anymore, so I think, and my experience in wine isn't as new as it was. I think maybe when you're getting into it, you have this idea that you want to build a program that's going to show you off, and then little by little you learn that you need to maneuver with what guests want. And then in this case, I got a chance to sort of be part of something to where the beverage was intended to be the back seat, to build around something where the food is the
Well, we
primary.
appreciate you so much,
This has
Rob.
been awesome.
It's been a pleasure.
Yes.
Thank you.
Wait, how do I say your name?
Guimarães.
Your last name? Yeah, that's right.
Guimarães.
I'm gonna mess it up.
I
Yeah, there you
I kinda said it.
Where'd you say it? Do it again.
Guimarães.
Oh, you did good.
Yeah. Well, it's so nice to meet
It was
you.
a pleasure.
Yes.
Let's go.
Thanks for having us.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Yes.
Everybody check
Cheers.
out Etch.
Cheers.
It's so good.
So good.
Can we just do this for a few more hours?
Yeah.
Just let everybody know that I'm busy.